Okay. Well, here we are again. Our colleague Ofer was unable to join us today, but I'm sure will be with us the next time. And so David and Brad and Judy and I will go forward with the next chapter in the missing link, consciousness. Would someone like to start with the first page?
I'd be more than happy to do it, Bill.
Okay.
Yeah, consciousness. All living creatures were given the power of mind, consciousness, and thought, which enables them to observe divine creation or form. Consciousness is the gift of awareness. Consciousness allows the recognition of form, form being the expression of thought.
You want me to go?
Sure, and if anybody has anything to add, of course, the same as always, but yes, Judy, go ahead.
Okay. Somewhere in the innermost recesses of our consciousness lie the answers to the questions all mankind seeks. As our consciousness descends, we lose our feelings of love and understanding and experience a world of emptiness, bewilderment, and despair. As our consciousness ascends, we regain purity of thought and in turn regain our feelings of love and understanding.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is so deep that it's hard to know where to start, you know.
Yeah. Anybody want to take, just any comments from let's start with the first paragraph there, the first of three. To me, what strikes me is that for so many years of my life, and I think this is huge, because when I was looking for answers, I did not look into the innermost recesses of my consciousness. I looked into my pea brain and my past experiences and
other people's advice. Yeah.
Other people's advice. Yeah. So this is, to me, that, Sid just says these things as if they're just, but they're like bombshells, well, that's a bad metaphor, but they're in a good way. They're just like, they're wake up, like, what? The answers are there, Anybody? I'm sorry. I asked it, started jabbering.
I completely agree, Bill. It's that one short sentence is so clear, so true, and so full of hope. It is like just turning the torch on or opening the door and in floods the light. It's simple truths like that are so powerful with this understanding, and it's just nice to have a gentle jog every now and again and be pointed in that direction, because we all have that available to us all the time, but we also have the ability to not see it all the time as well. So it's just reminding ourselves of that in a gentle way, and not, if we have lost sight of the fact that we've got that hope, we shouldn't be upset with ourselves or beat ourselves up for losing sight of it, or for not even knowing it existed. It's just having that gentleness with yourself to think, oh yeah, there it is again, cool, off we go. And that's what's so beautiful about this.
It's interesting. I shared this recently with a class I was doing on parenting, and I said this is the idea that gets parents off the hook, because you don't have to be the purveyor of answers. You have to be the purveyor of direction. When kids look to their own wisdom, they have the same, we all share this consciousness, this ability to look inside and find answers, and so do our children, but we override it so frequently, thinking that we're supposed to have expertise about their lives. And it was very freeing for some of the parents that were in that class. They were like, it never dawned on me that my kids could come up with their own answers. And yet, they were accepting of the fact that once you were an adult, you could do it. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. And even that as a parent, that what the insights you might have is to how to point your children in that direction. how to most effectively do that. And even that comes from just being present with them in a beautiful feeling. Yeah. Wow.
Powerful.
The idea that you mentioned, David, that I had, that this, the hope that is in this, the hope, boy, that, and I think any resistance that I've ever seen, I came to see was a lack of hope. That's all. I think Roger talked about that eloquently, Roger Mills. That all when you see somebody who appears to be resistant, it's just that they've lost hope. And if you can awaken hope, the resistance melts like a snowball in Arizona any day of the year, but even in the summer in the Midwest, or Florida too. Yeah, and the idea that you said, David, that we wake, as Sid said, we wake up and then we fall asleep, and then we wake up, we fall asleep. And so the key is, like you said, is just to be grateful for the moments awake.
But there's hope in that, in the idea of consciousness ascending and descending too, that it's not a constant, like you're not stuck. So even if you said for the first 42 years of my life, I never looked there, it doesn't mean it wasn't there.
Right.
It means you didn't happen to look there, but it's like, you could have moved in and out of it and not even realized it.
Well, and did many times, but didn't even realize. It wasn't that I spent, 42 years of my life in a horrible state. I just, it seemed like it happened to me that I had nothing to do with it.
Right.
Powerful.
Yeah. So, and the idea he just brings that the antidote in the end is love and understanding, and I think that's just a powerful thing, a theme that he's going to come. And the idea, as I said, that I watched that movie on the 5 soldiers coming back from Iraq, that they had love. They were filled with love in their hearts for each other and for their families, but lacking sufficient understanding, things got really difficult, and your heart, you see the innocence, and but the hope also that the understanding is our nature, to have that understanding if we can be pointed, as you said, Judy, in that direction. So does someone want to go forward?
Sure, no worries. Mental health lies within the mental health lies within the consciousness of all human beings, but is shrouded and held prisoner by our own erroneous thoughts. This is why we must look past our contaminated thoughts to find the purity and wisdom that lies inside our own consciousness. When the wise tell us to look within, they are directing us beyond intellectual analysis of personal thought to a higher order of knowledge called wisdom.
Wow.
I love the idea of the mental health is like it's like a gem in a box, that it's shrouded and held prisoner by our own erroneous thoughts. I mean, it's so nice to know that you can't lose it, but you can misplace it, kind of, And I think that's also very hopeful for people, to think that mental health is an attribute of our humanity, and but it's just like you can lose sight of anything in life, and it doesn't mean it's gone anywhere. It means you've lost sight of it. Yeah.
I'm laughing, Judy, because often if I misplace my keys or my billfold or my iPhone, it's under something, right?
Yes.
It's been shrouded and covered over by something that
Yeah, it's the same idea, right?
It's the same idea. And the other day, what was it that I had lost my keys, or I lost my reading? And I said to myself, brain, I know you know where I put it. I'm really open. This has happened twice in the last week. I'm really open to you showing me, and I'm going to quit trying to look for it, And I was headed out the door to my car, and I mean, really, I didn't have a conscious decision. I found myself turning around and going back to my chair that I sit in, my lazy boy, and reaching down the side and pulling out my glasses or pulling out my whatever.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, it was like somebody was, I mean, you know, Sid talks about there's a spiritual force trying to guide us to have our life a little more gentle all the time. And you get a sense of that when you surrender and quit looking to the intellectual analysis. That higher order of wisdom is not just for profound things. You see that it's a simple yet profound facility or a resource, I guess is the name, that I did not know was available to me in my life. I access it periodically in my life when I inadvertently quieted my mind enough to hear it, but I didn't know that it was a resource for when I was lost, whether it was lost in emotional pain or an emotional memory, or just that I'd lost my keys. I didn't know that. Anyway, I don't know if anybody wants to say anything more about this page. Again, like so many in this book, it is so much is packed on it. Does anyone else have anything before we move forward?
I just want to say, I mean, to me, just knowing that I wasn't broken, when I finally had that, when this finally came through, this understanding, you know, that you're whole, perfect, and mentally healthy, and that mentally healthy part, because I spent the 45, you know, I mean, almost 50 years thinking I was broken because of my experience, and the more that I had an understanding about pre-trauma and those things that happened, and plus my service too. This, you know, it comes back to that light. It comes back to hope again. And
that's beautiful. That's beautiful, Brad.
It just can't underestimate the possibility of that even creeping in for somebody that is really truly believing there's no hope. I've seen these things, I've experienced these things, I've gone through these things, and they've affected me, and I'm broken, and it's affecting my family and everything, and I have no, and then they lose hope. And this is where I think so many of our military and our first responders, they end up taking their lives.
Where they end up, yeah.
They end up as in the previous page, don't they? They in a world of emptiness, bewilderment, and despair, and isolation. And I don't know the details, but I know that as horrific as the results of that shootings in 1,000 Oaks, you know that man had to be his experience. He was totally in a feeling of isolation, of aloneness, of lostness, of despair, and of pain. And it's certainly tragic that he, like others do, took that pain out, not only on himself but on others. But you just see that the psychological innocence of that lostness, you know, and that journey to lostness. And I agree with you, Brad, that word, you know, when people of certainty can use words like all and never, that all human beings have this. And again, you know, I was reading one of the quotes of Sid earlier in my work, where he talks about how mind, of course I can't find it right now, but he talks about how mind is spiritual, and thus you know, cannot be here it is. Mind is by nature spiritual and has no form of its own, therefore it can't possibly be carried in a gene. And nor can it be damaged. And to know that at our essence, that's what we are, is hopeful, as you said.
Yeah, it's powerful. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that.
Should I go on? Oh, you have to
Sure.
read. Your turn. Sorry.
Oh, I have to read? I hate have-tos, but I'll do it anyway.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Well, you didn't get to read. I apologize.
Wisdom is an innate intelligence everyone possesses deep within their souls before the contamination of the outer world of creation. Find the spiritual wisdom that will guide you through life from within. This is where you will find the feelings of love, understanding, and contentment. Wow. Once again, one of those big words like everyone, huh? All.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Hope resonates throughout that whole page, doesn't it? Anyone have comments that want to share on that?
No, it's just, there it is. You know, the truth sitting there.
Yeah. But to know that there is this formless wisdom that we're made of, that is within us always and cannot be destroyed and cannot be swept away by any experience, as you were talking, Brad. Just if we can awaken even a photon of hope for people that are out there that watch this, that feel like that they're the exception to this everyone, or they're the exception to the all, that they're not. They don't get to be the exception. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I tell my clients sometimes, I'm sorry, you don't get to be that special.
Right.
You get to be like the rest of us. There's no exceptions.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
So, should I go on?
Sure.
Okay. That the deaf man cannot hear the sound of the crashing ocean waves, or the blind man cannot see the beauty of an autumn sky, does not mean the sea and the sky do not exist. So like the blind man, close your eyes. Like the deaf man, block your ears. Go inside and realize that which you seek has been there within you all along. That is when the blind will see and the deaf will hear.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah.
And those with excruciating pain will have hope. Huh? That's what came to me, something like that.
Yeah. But, I think that the other thing is that what has always meant a lot to me reading this is that in reality, people who are deaf or are blind, generally, if they were born that way, do not feel deprived, because they just know that the world that they know is all they know. They're at peace with that. And it's funny, I used to have a friend who worked at a school for the blind, and they used to do intramural sports with a school for the deaf. And she said the teachers would talk afterwards and they would say the little blind children were all feeling so sorry for the deaf children because they couldn't hear. And the deaf children would go back to their classes and say, oh my gosh, I feel so sorry for those little blind kids because they can't see. And yet, the truth that this points to is that deep within, that's not a limitation. That has nothing to do with wisdom, So,
And how often do we wake up in the morning, those of us that can see and hear,
yeah,
with gratitude for that
Right.
fact?
for the fact, yeah.
Wow.
Mm. Yeah.
Boy, this is a short but incredibly powerful little chapter, is it not?
Mhm.